let's do a book haul. I don't buy lots of fiction generally at once. If you see my previous book hauls, sometimes it is really that I've bought just a couple of fiction books and a couple of something else. But I have got a big fiction haul by my standards this time, for a few reasons. Basically, largely stuff I was inspired to buy via something else. So I've got 8 books here. There are a couple I'm still waiting for, which are mostly related to these, and I'll just say what they are as we go. But the first part of this story is actually a DVD, which I have also just got. LA Confidential, a film by Curtis Hanson, which was how Russell Crowe and Guy Pearce were introduced to American audiences, and Kim Basinger won her Oscar. 1997. I watched this, I really loved it. I bought the DVD so I can watch it with friends, not on streaming services. Hard media has its advantages. And I looked it up and I was like, oh wow, this is actually based on a book by someone called James Ellroy. And James Ellroy has written a lot of novels in general, but particularly a lot of crime novels, and a lot of them being somewhat interlinked. He's written the LA Quartet, I'll talk about more in a moment. And then he wrote 3 books, which were sort of... and the LA Quartet is, the books aren't all linked in terms of plot. They've got different main characters. They have some recurring issues, but particularly they're recurring characters, recurring locales. But they're standalones on their own. LA Confidential was the 3rd one. Black Dahlia is one there's also been a film adaptation of in the early noughties with Aaron Eckhart and someone else. I forget the other person who was in it as the 2 main characters. He then wrote 3 interlinked novels on a national scale rather than just in LA afterwards, but which were linked back to the LA Quartet. And he is now writing the 2nd LA Quartet, which is prequels to all 7 of those. There is another novel which I have not got, which I'm waiting for, called Clandestine, which introduces an important character in this world, important in LA Confidential. So it's obviously part of the same universe. These are noir, hard-boiled neo-noir books. They're pretty grim and gritty. They are at points pretty brutal. The Black Dahlia is a infamous, true story, unsolved, brutal killing in LA. And it's pretty unvarnished in that way. I wouldn't say it's not at all nihilistic though. It's not at all negative. It uses dark circumstances and psychological trauma to actually highlight a path to humaneness, to humane fulfillment. They're really interesting books. I've read the first one already, Black Dahlia, and I'm looking forward to continuing. So yeah, that was the first one, and a book I haven't got it. I got that a while ago, like a month ago or something. Then I have gotten Library of America edition. Really lovely editions, these. Eudora Welty's Stories, Essays and Memoir. Eudora Welty was a southern American, Mississippian writer, chiefly of fiction, who, along with people like Walker Percy, who I review on this channel, and the largely non-fiction, but also poet and novelist Wendell Berry, largely known now as an environmental writer and non-fiction writer, as writers who in the mid 20th century and early 20th century to a degree sought to look at a tradition of southern US writing that both drew on the tradition but also distinguished itself over segregation and in that sense was seen as inverted commas progressive. So yeah, Eudora Welty, looking forward to reading stuff of hers. I don't think I've ever read anything of hers, despite the fact that she is very much part of a subgenre I'm interested in. Here, this is in the Loeb Classical Library. Let's see if it's green, so it's Greek. If it's Latin, it's red. Loeb is a dual language, like facing page. Again, let's see if you can get some reasonable view there. Facing page, Greek and English. This is Quintus Smyrnaeus, Quintus of Smyrna perhaps, post-America, and that is the most complete version we have, because most of the stuff we have about the Trojan War legends is actually lost. Most of the stuff we know about is lost, other than Homer, and then some fragments, and then some other later works. And Post-America is the most complete version we have of what happens between the death of Achilles in the Iliad, spoilers for that 3,000-year-old book, and the events of the Odyssey, which involve you hearing, oh well, he's finished the war, now they're going off. So it includes the funeral games of Achilles. It includes what leads to the suicide of Ajax. It includes the Trojan horse, things like that. So yeah, that is that's fun. It's a chunky boy. I guess it's as long. It's 12 books in old terms. 12 books long. So I guess it's as long as like the Iliad or the Odyssey. Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. His dark western, grim western, and I want to read more westerns. I'm a massive western film fan, and realise I haven't read enough western fiction. You know, I've read some Louis L'Amour and some, who is it, Jack Schaefer? Yeah, Jack Schaefer, who wrote Shane, which is a good novel and good film, which is referenced, or you see a couple of times, and was referenced in Logan. What is that? What it's called? You know, the last Wolverine film. I think it's just called Logan, isn't it? Okay, now. Before I go into this, I'll say another novella I have not received is the hard copy of Dawn Shard by Brandon Sanderson. Don't know when that will arrive, but in the next week or two. I read the ebook when it came out. I think I kind of found that objectionable in a sense that, and it's something I'm glad is not seemingly going to be it is not, I don't know. Basically, because I think, wasn't it that the first hard copy of it was still long delayed in terms of time, but was attached to a leather-bound Kickstarter, and the new 4 novels thing, at least it's open access, everyone could kind of jump in on it, and it was just for those books, and they could choose their formats. But even so, the fact the hard copy was long delayed then, but the ebook was out, I like, hard copies, and I want that as my first port of call. I read it, though, before Rhythm of War, and I enjoyed it, and I'm getting the novella so I can reread it, so my wife can read it. So yes, I haven't received that. Now, the other big block of fiction in this, you can see there are 4 books here, but they are actually 6 books, and I am missing 2 of the same group. This is Gene Wolfe, the solar cycle stuff. So I loved the Book of the New Sun. The first omnibus was my book of the year 2021. The second omnibus will be a challenger for 2022. And I liked the other novel I read of his, Fifth Head of Cerberus. I have his Latro book, so he's about this memory lost Greek soldier who gets recruited by the gods to do stuff. But the solar cycle, there are, as well as the 4 books of the New Sun, which are written as one, like Lord of the Rings, they are the Book of the New Sun. He also wrote something called Earth of the New Sun, which is a coda to Book of the New Sun. I haven't received it, but I have ordered it. Book of the Long Sun and Book of the Short Sun. There's also some short stories which are in a short story collection which I have ordered but not received. Long Sun. These are genuinely quite beautiful books. I think at least the short Sun ones are print on demand, and I don't know, the covers of these have the kind of slightly odd waxy matte finish which you sometimes get on dust covers or on print on demand, but they're not marked as print on demand on the back. But yeah, so there's Book of the Long Sun. I think Earth of the New Sun is coming in the same livery, and I would enjoy that. I read the first short section, the first bit till it gets to a section break, which is literally less than a page, pretty much the first page there. And I read it and I was like, this is amazing. He is such a good writer. There are reasons why. I think on the back of this, who is it? Which one does it say? Someone makes the argument on the back of one of these that he is the writer, the greatest writer in the English language alive today. Let me repeat that. Gene Wolfe is the greatest writer in the English language alive today. That was Michael Swanwick. And I don't know about that, but I think there's something, having read New Sun, and I'm now wanting to revisit Fifth Head of Cerberus. You're talking about a real literary artist, storyteller, plot writer, character writer, easy to understand in most respects, but with massive depths, creating with a cult community. Who do, there are multiple podcasts just dedicated to the kind of weird mysteries of his books, and yeah, that's what excited me, and I'm excited to have Long Sun, Short Sun, different covers, also kind of interesting. Those are the first 2. The third one has not arrived. So that's 3, I guess, in the wind at the moment. So that's Book of the Short Sun, which is, I think, the kind of way it connects is, I don't know all the timeline stuff, but Book of the New Sun was written on its own. Then Earth of the New Sun was written as a coda. I don't know about the short stories. Book of the Long Sun was written, again, I think relatively close together, and is third person. So you have first person narrative in Book of the New Sun, third person in Long Sun, and then in Short Sun is much more of a sequel to Long Sun than either are directly to New Sun, though they do both connect. And Short Sun switches to first person, and that's a very Wolfian thing, not because he's thinking, oh, what would be an interesting thing to do, but just because he's like, I've got this crazy way to screw up everything that's happened before in a way that's incredibly interesting, is my impression of that. Anyway, that is what I have gotten recently. I'm excited about those. All of them are things I want to read relatively soon at some level. The post-American maybe least so, because it fits in with my more general kind of like classics reading. But in terms of my normal fiction reading, I'm going to read some Eudora Welty short stories this weekend. When I've got time, I want to move on to the next Ellroy novel. I'm incredibly tempted to just dive into Book of the Long Sun, but I think I'd rather read Earth of the New Sun first, because technically it came out beforehand, and I think there is some degree of priority. I don't think they are directly dependent though. And Blood Meridian, along with some other Western novels I've got. I just want to, yeah. And they're usually short, aren't they, Western novels? Anyway, that is what I've got recently. What have you bought recently? What books have you gotten, and what are you excited about? And yeah, does any of this interest you? Tell me in the comments. Till next time.